said, it just seems wrong that Tampa could win this game tomorrow afternoon, and they still got to wait around for the dingbat Falcons to do whatever they're going to do. Like, that seems a bit cruel to me. I would have flipped these games around. I know the NFL wants the best games and the most primetime windows, but I just would have flipped them or put them the same, put them both at 1 o'clock on Sunday. But
yeah, they just had limited broadcast options, I think. And if they play Atlanta, New Orleans first, and Atlanta wins, and Carolina means absolutely nothing, and they're sitting Bryce Young and everybody else. So
right.
I get why they – like, if you look at Week 18, the scheduling is kind of weird. We think of it, there's so much on the line this week because you got the first two games on Sunday night. All the games on Sunday are pretty much like, I guess, like if Jacksonville gets upset as a 13.5-point favorite, then it gets interesting. But, yeah, it's kind of a weird week this week.
No, it's bad. It's a really bad slate. I've been looking at it for several days now, and I'm trying to find the juice between 1 o'clock and 8:30. Right. No, seriously. To me, the only juice is the nostalgia of the final game at Rich Stadium, now Highmark.
Sure.
That'll be fun. There's a lot of good old Bills stuff coming out. They're wearing their red helmets for the first time in like 20 years. So that's cool. And then the other compelling thing is, are the Giants going to really themselves again by winning against the Cowboys? Because I'm assuming the Raiders as a 5.5-point dog will do what the Raiders do. But then again, they're facing Chris Aludican. So that's, to me,
the thing too.
The race for one is fascinating. I'm going to be going, all right, Giants, what are you doing? Hey, Raiders, are you alive? No, you're not alive. Okay, good.
It is. And I don't know that Andy Reid would do this, but if I'm Andy Reid, who has all the job security in the world, like he doesn't care if he loses a game, right?
Tank.
I'm saying, do I really want the Raiders to get first pick of the draft?
No.
Maybe Chris Jones. Maybe you need to come out a little early. That hamstring might be tightening up. And George Karlaftis, I don't know. Like, you've had a lot of why wouldn't they tank?
No, I mean, it would be absolutely strategically smart to do that. Even though the Raiders will still pick second, and maybe it'll be a case like it was with, at least for a year or so with Caleb versus C.J. Stroud, where it looked like the 2 was better than the 1. We'll see how it plays out. Obviously, that's changing as we speak. But any little advantage for anyone on your street, in your neighborhood, try to screw them if possible.
Absolutely. I agree. And I don't think all coaches can do that. Like, you look at Mike Kafka, however you ever pronounce it, with the Giants. He doesn't care what draft pick they get. He's not going to be around.
No, he's gone.
What difference does it make?
Right.
He wants to go out a winner. I'm going to try to win this game the best I can. Andy Reid's like, I'm going to face the Raiders. And let's say Dante Moore comes back to Oregon to collect that NIL money because he just doesn't want to be whoever, the Giants or Raiders. Then Mendoza goes first to some team trading up, and the Raiders are stuck at second without a guy to pick. Like, the Chiefs could really, really mess with the Raiders this week, and I think it would be fantastic theater. And I don't think it would be obvious. I think it would be subtle. But if the Chiefs win this game or lose this game, I would laugh. I think it would be hilarious. After all the Raiders shenanigans last week, which I thought were completely unprofessional and not within the spirit of the NFL, of, hey, Max Crosby, you played every snap last week, but you got to go on IL. Brock Bowers, you looked totally fine last week, but you got to go on IL. I would laugh if the Raiders didn't get the first pick after tanking so hard for this.
Well, see, this is my thing, Frank, too. Like, no matter what, I know we're going to have meaningless weeks for a lot of teams at the end of NFL seasons, no matter how long the season is. It's a guarantee that's there. But for all of the conversation in the NBA and tanking, like in the NFL, you have the worst record. You are going to get the number 1 overall pick. So it's a lot easier to control that versus what you have in the NBA. Yet nobody wants to talk about tanking in the NFL like they do with the NBA. I don't know if you and I have talked about this on other shows that I've done. I can't remember if I put this theory out to you, but I'm going to give it to you again. I would much rather see the NFL, because we know inevitably they're going 18 games. It's happening. They're setting it up like it's going to happen. I would much rather the NFL have stayed at 16 games and expanded the playoffs, because I'd rather have, if we want more games, I would rather have more playoff games.
An interesting angle.
Than just sitting there with these meaningless games. I know they're going to have them no matter what at the end of the regular season, Frank, but at least to give us, if we're going to extend the season and have more weeks of the NFL in season, I would rather it be wild card weekend and super wild card weekend than here are games late in the year where we're watching the Giants and the Raiders try and tank when we could have done that 2 weeks ago and ripped the Band-Aid off already.
It's interesting. I I like it in a lot of ways. The only part I don't like is watering down the playoffs more. I think it's already watered down enough. Where not this year. This year the 7 seeds are going to be pretty good. Packers and whoever else. I think the Chargers are going to be a 7 seed. Good teams. But usually we get some team barely limping in as a 7 seed who has no chance. It's going to get worse if you had an 8 seed, right? Like, but I do get it. Like, yeah, you've had some teams that are just Commanders. You know, you guys mentioned playing out the string for a month. I will give these teams credit. The difference between the NBA and the NFL is I don't think, you know, the NBA does its shenanigans too, and I don't like that. But you see the teams at the bottom of the NFL food chain, basically, a lot of them are playing hard and playing well. And because you can't tell coaches and players to tank, you just don't do it. It doesn't happen. Players go out there, play less than 100%, they're going to get hurt. Coaches go out and lose all the time because they're being told to lose. You end up like Hugh Jackson and get fired. Like, so the guys who are actually on the field, the only way you can do it is like putting Max Crosby on IL, so he can't affect a game, right? But you look at Tennessee is playing hard. New Orleans is playing really, really well. Giants played well last week. A lot of teams near the bottom are actually. I tip my cap and give full credit. Yes, a lot of these games are meaningless, but I think most of the teams, other than the Raiders, who are just a garbage right now, other than them, I think a lot, and the Jets. The Jets are absolute trash.
Yeah.
But other than those kind of two teams, Miami's been playing well for months, and I think everybody. I give respect. I give a lot of respect to a team like the Titans, who have had nothing to play for months, but yet you know they've been covering the spread at least most weeks. I mean, is one measure of how hard they're playing. So I don't think we're having a terrible tanking problem this week, outside of the Raiders and the Jets, who are just no good. They're God. Oh my goodness, those teams are bad.
Green Bay is 7 locked in the NFC.
Yeah,
and you got Chicago and Philly that will jostle if they care for the 2 or the 3. The 2 delivers you Green Bay, with Love having cleared concussion protocol, and he'll be ready to go. Their defense is so bad, though, they picked up Trayvon Diggs on waiver wires to try to supplement their back end. I think that's probably going to be a futile effort there, and they got no Micah Parsons. They're probably going to allow a ton of rushing yards against either Chicago or Philadelphia. But if you're either Chicago or Philly, do you want Green Bay as the 7, or do you take your chances with someone else from the mix of Seattle, San Francisco, L.A.?
Yeah, I mean, if you're I'd rather play the Packers. That defense just doesn't look good with how much. Yeah, but I always wrestle with this of what's the difference between 2 and 3? Is that worth a week of rest? And I've been kind of arguing with people all week, saying I'm fully on board, 100% with. If you have a chance to rest your players week 18, you rest them, period.
Right.
End of story. You don't put last year the Packers did the whole, like, we're going to play hard because we can move up from the 6 seed to the 5 seed. And you got Christian Watson hurt for the season and Jordan Love banged up.
Stupid.
And you don't want to go into the playoffs like that. And, you know, Sean McVay, Sean McVay is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Like, he's an unbelievable coach. But he comes out after the game, he's mad. They lose Atlanta. He's like, our starters are playing because they haven't played well the past few weeks. So we got to. What if you go out this week against Arizona and your starters stink? There's no guarantee that they play well and you go into the playoffs feeling better about yourself. And what if Puka Nacua, the most physical receiver in the NFL, gets hurt? You know, I mean,
no, it'd be the dumbest thing ever. And I think these coaches, they talk a good game. Yeah, they talk a good game about that. Few coaches have the fortitude to press it deep into the third quarter, fourth quarter to win the game, which, as you know, and we know, is where all these games are won anyway. In the fourth quarter.
Right.
You have to then really lean in and say, we're going to try to win this game. I think some teams like Philly is not going to try. They may still win. Some teams may not try and may still win.
I think I picked Philly. I trust Tanner McKee over the whatever bones of the Commander's corpse are going out there right now. Yeah. I mean, Philly is smart. Philly's a really interesting case because you got a quarterback in Tanner McKee. You could throw him out there under the guise of we're resting our starters, right? But in reality, Howie Roseman's smart enough to know Tanner McKee throws for 320 yards against this terrible Commanders team. I could flip him this offseason. I can trade him. I could go out there and say,
really?
Hey, you need a quarterback? Have you seen Tanner McKee in the preseason has been awesome, right? Yeah. And there's this buzz of like Tanner McKee's really great.
Make him another Scott Mitchell, basically.
Exactly right.
Tempt some team to fall in love with a guy with a super short sample size.
Yep. Super short sample size. Let's say he goes, and this is not out of the question. You guys have watched the Commanders as well as I have. He goes out against the Commanders on Sunday and throws for 325 and 3 touchdowns, and they win, and that's the last you see of him until the offseason. You know, like some team out there who needs it. I mean, Mac Jones is getting a bunch of buzz, and Malik Willis, who's looked really good.
Somebody's going to overpay Willis badly.
Yeah, the Raiders wouldn't be like, if the Raiders lose out, like we talked about the Raiders, they lose out on their quarterback, or Miami, which has no options at quarterback and no money because they're going to have to cut Tua. You know, I mean, a team like that wouldn't be like Tanner McKee for a 2, like whatever they can get for him.
So just on the other end of the Chicago-Philly thing, the funniest exchange this week came in Chicago, where a reporter asked Johnson about Caleb because Caleb's at 37-30.
Yeah.
The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. And he was asked, Ben Johnson, so you're going to let Caleb go for it? And Ben Johnson's like, yeah, I don't know. It's not really significant. And the reporter actually said, I know you're new around here, but it kind of is a big deal. The fan base still seethes when other teams and fan bases, especially the Packers, rub it in their nose. Never a 4,000-yard passer, which is a kind of a mind-blowing stat, right, for the modern NFL.
Right.
So would you, if you're Ben Johnson, do you let Caleb go out there and try to get it?
It's very interesting because I just talked about rest and how much it matters. I part of me says yes. Part of me says, okay, let him go for it. Like, I mean, because, and also if you're Ben Johnson and, you know, like all NFL coaches, all alphas in the NFL got a little bit of ego. To be the coach who comes in first year, I have your first 4,000-yard passer. You feel pretty good about that, right? A little strut to your step and say, yeah, look how I came in, and now we have a modern passing game finally. I have wondered about that, yes. And maybe because I have a preseason wager on Caleb Williams passing 4,000 yards this year. I don't know. Who knows? Who could ever say?
Wow. So you're a pot committed on that.
I really want him to go for it. I don't think ultimately they will because, again, if you go out there and you know, if Caleb gets sacked and sprains his ankle, you'd feel stupid the rest of your life. But that a lot. Look, we see it every year in Week 18. Guys chasing incentives, how much it matters to them. With all of them will say, "I don't even know how many yards I have." This they all know. They all know.
Everybody knows.
Absolutely.
Especially when, and I'm not saying it's a contractual incentive thing with Caleb. I don't think he has that in his contract, but. They know, and they like it, and it's important to them to reach this milestone, that milestone. So I could look at Saquon Barkley last year trying to get the 2,000 before Week 18.
And they shut him down, and everyone went crazy on Sirianni for that. But it worked out.
So I could see Caleb. Look, if you come out in the first half and he's got 180, you might say, yeah, let's keep going for this thing. I don't think he sits the whole game because they do have the guys of, hey, if Philly loses, we can get the 2 seed, we can get I think they're in the 2 seed, right? So they could say, well, we want the Packers, we don't want to face the Rams. I wonder
if truth be told, if the Bears really want the Packers again. Or if they're just saying they want the Packers again. Because I know the Packers, for whatever it's worth, absolutely want the Bears one more bite against them.
Oh, yeah.
Even with their depleted defense on that. Real quick, Jay Cutler at the peak of Smoke and Jay in Philly, or in Chicago, never passed for 4,000. He got to 38-12 in 2014. Cutler did throw for 4,500 yards in Denver last year in 2008. Yeah. And on the bonus front, have you seen the Bradley Chubb situation down in Miami?
I haven't. What's going on with Bradley?
Bradley Chubb is on the hook for almost $1 million based on sack totals in their final game in Week 18. And he's got other performance escalators that can really ramp up his salary. He was asked about it this week. So you're right. There's a ton of guys right now that know exactly what they need.
And if they don't know in the betting community, it's known, and they'll find its way to them at some point too with props.
At some point, somebody's going to tell them. Yeah, somebody on social media is going to at them and say, "Hey, I need." You need one more sack for 10. Everybody, these guys know, and it's okay. I'm not saying this in a bad way. Look, I'm not going to say that if I'm Bradley Chubb, I don't know that $1 million is on the line if I get a sack. I know that. That's a lot of money.
Did you know that linemen can turn in a sack to the league office for review to see who gets either partial sack credit or to change the stat?
I did not know that. No.
Yeah, Chris Long on his podcast was explaining this, how linemen will tell each other in the locker room, like, hey, man, that sack last week, I'm thinking I'm going to turn that into the league. Oh, no, man, you can't do that, man. That's gonna hurt my bonus.
I didn't know
it's
that
wild.
either.
I'd never heard that before.
Never heard that either.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
That's
they
crazy.
submit it to the league, and they go, okay, we'll adjust that. And that screws fantasy.
Oh, yeah,
and it
absolutely
screws
does.
prop
Yeah,
bets
yeah,
as
Screws
well.
a lot. Adjusted numbers, we've seen that affect people in fantasy and betting a lot. I'm
Oh,
talking to
yeah.
Frank Schwab here on The Fan.
Frank, while we're scraping for things on Sunday as well to look at, the Myles Garrett thing. Is that interesting to anybody if he gets the record?
Oh, I think they want to get him that, and I would too. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, I don't mind when I mean, we kind of selectively do it sometimes. Sometimes just guys we don't like, we complain that they're quote unquote chasing stats or padding stats. But
does it matter to you
want
though?
That record?
Right? Does it matter to you though? Like, I know they want to get it. He wants to get it. To you though, as just a fan of the league, does it matter one way
I
or
like
the other?
to see it. Yeah,
Okay.
I like this. I think Myles Garrett's one of those guys who deserves it. Not that people deserve or don't deserve, whatever. You get what you get, but he's a guy who has been so great that if not that Strahan or T.J. Watt aren't, but you look and if we were to sit here at the end of the year and say Myles Garrett has the all-time single-season sack record, I'd say that fits. That he's totally deserving of that. He's one of the great players of this era.
Frank, I'm looking at the top of the AFC. And you got the Broncos and Patriots fighting for a 1 seed. And I know there's a chance for the Jags and all this too. It's a lot of young quarterbacks and a lot of teams that are very inexperienced with their current collection of players in the playoffs. How much experience do you factor in for how you look at or project or have a confidence level in a team from the regular season to the postseason?
I think it's a little overrated. I think if you can play, you can play. Look, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks didn't have anybody on the roster who would ever won a Super Bowl, and they blew out the Broncos 43-8. I think they may have one guy on that roster who played in a Super Bowl, but it wasn't many. So I think sometimes, look, yes, would I rather have a guy who's been through it before? Yeah, if I'm picking between the two, but I'd rather have Drake May than some mediocre quarterback who's just happened to start 8 playoff games. So. I think that just you get experience by doing it, and sometimes just the ignorance of youth is good too. You don't realize how big of a stage that is. We saw it in baseball a lot this year. Trey Savage, right? Like he's going out there every time throwing 7 scoreless innings because he doesn't know any better. He doesn't know he's supposed to be getting lit up in a World Series game, and so I do think experience is overrated. I think it helps, right? But at the end of the day, football's football, and if you got the best team, I think you're going to do just fine. If you were good in the regular season, you're probably going to be good in the playoffs too.
Frank Schwab, Yahoo Sports. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yep, appreciate it, guys.